Hey guys, Dirk here. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the Marauder. It's the full thickness. I've done a review on them before, so I'm not going to go into all of the specs. But I will put a link to my Marauder playlist down in the description below because I went through all of the different sizes. But today, what looks like a Marauder H is really a full thickness Marauder, and it's running on bearings. So they made 4 of these that run on bearings. So I wanted to just kind of touch on that a little bit and kind of compare it to one of the other full size that I have as far as the action. And I have a couple of them here, so we're going to compare a few. And really quickly, they're 5 inches closed. Overall length is 9.5, 9 3/8. 0.25 blade, 2.6. You know, they claim it's 2.6. I measured at 2.5. I don't know what to tell you. My calipers say it's 2.5. Yada yada yada. This is a Tonto blade with titanium hardware, I think. D2 for this particular one. The video I did before was with the drop point, this particular drop point. So let's just get into the action on this one on bearings. And I'm going to try to do it without chopping my thumb off. So it's really smooth. Again, it always makes me nervous because it is a heavy blade. So I try to get it past the detent and then closed. Okay, so that's it on bearings. Rockets out with a finger flick. One thing I've noticed is the lock it's a stronger lock than on this guy. And you can see it, and I don't know why, but if you look at the lock bar cutout, on the bearing one, it's much smaller than on the older style, you know, the older one I have. And let's take a look at this one. Let me just, I didn't even think about measuring these. Let me just measure it really quick, just because I'm curious now as to how big that cutout is. So it's 0.81 on the older one, 0.89 on this one, and 0.60 on this guy. And then I got one more over here, but that one is really, this one probably deserves its own video. So we'll come back to this. And this particular one, the lock cutout is on the inside. So it's interesting. So you saw the action on the bearing. Okay. This is non-bearing, standard washers. This one acts like it's on bearings. It's broken in so well that it's super smooth. This one is the first, this was my very first brand new Medford knife. And I bought this one from Greg directly at the California Custom Knife Show back 3 years now, I guess it was. October will be 3 years. Because I missed last year. I picked this one up. I went to the second one. Maybe it's 4 years. I don't know. It was a few years ago. And this one is also smooth, but not as. Gotta shake it a bit. So even if I push the lock bar in a little more, it stays where it is, right? You gotta kind of shake this one. So it's odd to me how they're all completely different. Now the bearing one should be different, right? The bearing one is certainly different, and it is harder to push the lock because that cutout is not as big. And, you know, for argument's sake here, we'll do this one. This one is probably the stiffest of them all. But the lock disengagement on that one versus this one, yeah, this one is lighter, and this one is lighter. So these two locks are roughly the same stiffness. This guy and this guy, yeah, are similar. It's hard to say which one is a firmer lock. I believe the bearing one is the most firm lock of these Marauders here. So the other thing, and we'll compare this a little bit, this is a D2 Vulcan blade. It looks PVD until you get up close on it, but this is a Vulcan blade. So everybody, you know, has their opinion on their Medford's Vulcan finish, but you can get Vulcan from here. There's a range of Vulcan, and they can never predict, to here. So these are both Vulcan blades. The bearing one is D2, and the crazy one is CPM 3V. But this is why they don't necessarily really offer Vulcan anymore, because it just comes out the way it comes out. So they cannot predict and guarantee you have something this wild and this crazy. And, you know, they had customers that were upset or frustrated because it came out more like this or somewhere in between. And I've got some other Vulcan blades, and at some point what I'll do is I'll bring them all out and we'll just do a Vulcan video so you can see the 50 shades of Vulcan, if you will. But yeah, they did a small run of these right before the Centurion 1 inaugural Centurion event. And when I was talking to Jeff about my final payment for the Centurion event, he told me that they had a couple of these, and I bought one. And my buddy James in Hawaii bought one. And they're great. It's super smooth. I think these two on mine are unusually smooth for bearing ones. But again, sometimes they come out super smooth and sometimes they don't. That's the funny thing about the Medford stuff, is every Medford has kind of its own personality, if you will. And the actions are a little bit different. Whereas if you go with Chris Reeve, a Sabenza, the action on this particular one here will be exactly the same as any of the ones that my brother has, because my brother has a bunch of Chris Reeve, or anybody else out there in knife land. They all have the same action. And correct me if I'm wrong, I've had a few other Sabenzas, and they've all been very much the same, okay? Yes, you can adjust it a little bit if your pivot is a little tighter, a little looser, but right out of the box, all the ones I've had have been identical. Right out of the box in Medford land, they've all been different. And it's not just from the Marauder line to the Praetorian line, it's within the same line. They're always a little different. Each and every one has its own personality. So, I don't know, for what it's worth, I just wanted to share, because I've been getting a lot of comments on the bearing Marauder lately when I post that, because everybody thinks it's an H, because it has the H scale. This is the milling that they do on the Marauder H, which, as if you're not familiar, it has the .190 blade thickness. So anyway, just a quick video to kind of explain the action on some of these. If you've got questions, let me know in the comments down below, and I'd be happy to answer them for you. Thanks a lot. I greatly appreciate your time, and have a great day, and we'll see you on the next one.